Before I launch into the sermon, I have an addendum to joys and concerns. Joanne felt it was important to let you know that her sister died 51 years ago, but her birthday is April 24th. This is a reminder, among other things, that love transcends the decades, even the generations, and that those we love are forever in our heart. And if we can remember them at any time, if it's on their birthday, that may be the sweetest time of all. If we can learn anything from monarchies and autocracies, not to mention the worship of corporate executives, it is that many people, perhaps most people, are comforted by the thought that someone, generally someone else, is in control of things. That means the rest of us can relax somewhat, since someone else can be counted on to keep things on track or make corrections when they leave the tracks. The world is a big, complicated place. And since most people can't even balance their checkbooks anymore, assuming they still have checkbooks, those artifacts from the past, it's nice to know at times that somebody else is in charge. It's not on our shoulders entirely. And this is why gods are so comforting, so lasting, whether singular or plural, since in addition to helping us explain why things are the way they are, and helping us make choices through the various scriptures that are purported to reflect their will, not to mention the prospect of punishing those we don't like, which, if you will admit it, sometimes brings you delight. Despite these things, deities reassure us that things happen for a reason and that everything will be all right in the end. Or if you're one to be punished, they won't be all right at all, and there's nothing you can do about it anymore. They offer ultimate security and certain benchmarks in an often uncertain world. God is our refuge and our strength, proclaims Psalm 46, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth should change, though the mountains shake in the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble with its tumult. There is a sense of comfort in those words. Or later in Psalm 107, then they cried to the Lord in their trouble, and he brought them out from their distress. He made the storm be still, and the waves of the sea were hushed. Then they were glad because they had quiet, and he brought them to their desired heaven. It's interesting that the Psalms often invoke nature as what it is that we have to fear, whereas if we look at civilization today, we may well wonder whether it's humans that we should fear most rather than nature. Although, of course, we humans are part of nature, whether we acknowledge the relationship or not. These may be comforting thoughts in the springtime, when the river reaches flood stage, or in the summer when torrential storms bring tornadoes, or during the forest fires of autumn, or in the midst of the fierce blizzards of winter. nature does sometime deal us challenges with which we have to contend. Many look naturally to the heavens in the face of death, seek divine inspiration in the depths of despair, or welcome an unseen hand when the burdens of everyday life overwhelm them. Who doesn't want a friend in life's difficult moments, even an invisible friend? But what if life's trials and tribulations simply flow from the same natural laws that bring us our blessings and our bounty? What if the natural world in which we live and move and have our being is all that there is, the sum total of existence? Well, for some, that is enough. I have opened my mind to the open air of the universe, to things as they are, affirmed naturalist John Burroughs more than a century ago. Our life depends from moment to moment upon the air we breathe, yet its winds and tempests may destroy us. It depends from day to day upon the water we drink, yet its floods may sweep us away. We walk, climb, work, and move mountains using gravity, and yet gravity may break every bone in our bodies. We spread our sails to the winds, and they become our faithful servitors, yet the winds may drive us into the jaws of the breakers. How our lives are bound up and identified with the merciless forces that surround us. The faith of a naturalist accepts the world as it is, grateful for how nature nourishes us, celebrating the improbable gifts of life itself, without the need for supernatural explanations or justifications, recognizing that nature's blessings and blows, its possibilities and pitfalls, are woven together in the interconnected web of existence. That's not to say that religious naturalists accept society as it is, for society is the result of human action, both individual and collective, and it is well within our power to change it for the better. We may even feel called or compelled to do so. In many cultures, it is customary to answer that God created the universe out of nothing, observed Carl Sagan. But this is mere temporizing. If we wish courageously to pursue the question, we must ask next, where does God come from? And if we decide this to be unanswerable, why not save a step and conclude that the universe has always existed? That it is the universe that is infinite and eternal. When the Unitarian Universalist Association adopted our beloved 7 principles in 1985, it was no accident that they concluded with respect for the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part, which arguably marked a landmark in how we speak about the metaphysical, language that could be accepted by both the theists and the atheists among us. Well, in one sense, it was something of an accident, since the 7th principle, as it came to be known, was almost an afterthought. Not only the last one to appear, but also the last one to be proposed after those crafting the statement had more or less settled on 6. beginning with an affirmation of the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and concluding with the web of existence, which is not so much a metaphor as it is a vivid description of how we see the universe. The principles were arranged from the most particular, you and me, to the most universal, the whole worldwide web, and not just the internet variety. The seventh principle, as it came to be known, reflected the shift of Unitarian and Universalist thinking over the course of 2 centuries, from the theological to the cosmological, from a faith devoted to the worship of God to one that acknowledged nature itself as the source of our existence. It reflected a new consensus in Unitarian Universalism. What we call the interconnected web of existence marks the zenith of religious naturalism among us. In the midst of an impersonal universe, the interdependent web displaced what Burroughs called our petty anthropomorphic views of things. Religious naturalism rebels against a worldview that sets both God and humankind apart from nature, instead of affirming a monistic view of the oneness of creation, of remembering that human beings are a part of nature, and of affirming that whatever God may be, and however we may choose to define it, God too must be part of the natural world. Some might embrace Spinoza's God, which understood divinity and nature as being one. But that's more a semantic assertion than a theological one, while others would affirm that nature alone is enough. Some use the poetry of theological language when talking about nature, while others simply content themselves with using the scientific language about nature on its own. Amid the decay of creeds, love of nature has high religious value, declared John Burroughs. This has saved many persons in the world. It has made them contented and at home wherever they are in nature, in the house not made with hands. This house is their church. The rocks and the hills are the altars. The creed is written in the leaves of the trees, in the flowers, and in the sands of the shore. A new creed every day, new preachers and holy days all through the week. Every walk to the woods is a religious rite. Every bath in the stream is a saving ordinance. Communion service is at all hours, and the bread and wine are from the heart and marrow of Mother Earth. There are no heretics in nature's church. All are believers. All are communicants. The beauty of natural religion is that you have it all the time. You do not have to seek it far off in myths and legends and catacombs, garbled texts, miracles of dead saints, or wine-imbibing friars. It is of today, here and now. It is everywhere. Burroughs' temple was in the great outdoors, where the towering trees offer as majestic a setting as any great cathedral, where all that is essential is expressed in the rocks and the hills, the streams and the flowers. Nature has its own stories to tell and its own truths to reveal. Are not these woods more free from peril than the envious court? Asked the Duke when he and his men arrived at the forest of Arden in Shakespeare's As You Like It. And this is our life, exempt from public haunt. Find tongues in trees, books in the running brooks, sermons in stones, and good in everything. For the religious naturalist, nature offers as much mystery and meaning, beauty and inspiration as any sacred text or religious creed. We separate ourselves from nature and flatter ourselves that we belong to another and higher order, that we alone are of divine origin and not involved in the fate of the rest of creation, lamented Burroughs, while noting that we are composed of the same minerals or elements that constitute the physical universe, deriving our lives from the same cosmic dust and solar radiations that make up every other species of life on Earth. Why should we put on superior airs when no one atom of matter will turn aside for us? Not one law of physics cease to operate to save us from destruction, he asked. On balance, nature has been favorable towards us as a species. One might even say kind. As favorable and as kind as any beneficent deity can be said to have been. Some may invoke deities and demons to explain why things sometimes go awry, in order to explain life's disappointments and disasters in the face of our experience that life is generally good to us. Even most of our bad days are pretty good once we get over our complaint du jour. Most human beings seem to prefer to believe that ill fortune is a punishment, rather than concede that our lives are filled with random events over which even the gods have no control, that an element of chance defines our existence when it comes to our individual lives, even as we see the magnificent order of nature all around us. We need to believe that our lives have purpose, a purpose external to ourselves, rather than accept the terrible responsibility to shape the meaning of our own lives. When we can scarcely explain why we hold the values and the beliefs that we do, the preferences and tastes, the urges and instincts. So we separate ourselves from nature rather than embracing our place within it. And we create mythologies and theologies to explain why we fancy ourselves to be something more than the intelligent dust of the universe. We look for a plan where there is only natural law. We look for a creator rather than acknowledge that the universe itself is self-creating and self-perpetuating. There is a comfort in anthropomorphizing nature, since doing so tames the natural world, explaining its apparent affections and tempers, domesticating it in human terms, making it more relatable and seemingly more controllable. But as events show us, each and every year when we're paying attention, nature will not be tamed. Many find comfort in a deity with a human face who has created us in their image as preferable to an impersonal collection of forces and laws. And I wouldn't deny anyone this comfort. But for me, nature is enough. The earth is my everlasting home, and I am content to rest in its bosom. An infinite and eternal universe is as satisfying to me as an infinite and eternal deity. As Carl Sagan noted, it saves me a step. And in theology, as in life, my capacity for laziness knows no bounds. Yes, let me rest in nature's bosom. But we are here, as Burroughs reminded us. The world is beautiful. Life is worth living. Nature serves us when we know how to use her, when we plant and sow wisely. More things have been for us than have been against us. More winds have blown our barks into safe harbors than have dashed us upon the rocks. There are more refreshing showers than devastating tornadoes, more sunshine than forked lightning, more fertile ground upon the earth than parched deserts, a broader belt of genial climates than frigid zones. Nature as it is. The chances of life have been in our favor. The stream makes its own channel. The waters find their way to the sea, and they do not stagnate along the way. So whether you still draw your faith from ancient scriptures and well-worn and time-tested traditions, or whether you seek sermons in stones, words in the babbling brooks, either way, may you from time to time take your faith out into the open air to test it against the refreshing breezes of the natural world and see if the winds might not bring you something that refreshes you, that rejuvenates you, that reminds you our lives are worth the living. Please join in our closing hymn, number 1064, in the Teal hymn book, Blue Boat Home.